Welcome back to the Balanced Hormones Empowered Women podcast. I'm your host, Abby Vajejo, registered dietitian, certified personal trainer, and health coach. And what I do is I teach women in perimenopause how to balance their hormones, lose body fat, and get their energy and libido back. And this is a feminine focused approach that's about working smarter and not harder. So today, this is just going to be a quick one, but what I wanted to do is go through measuring your progress before and after a fast. So I regularly like to do 36-hour fasts, which, as if you've been following me, you've probably heard me say that is the belly fat burner fast. So intermittent fasting is a really beneficial tool. When women use it, we have to know how to use it correctly, right? So it doesn't cause hormonal imbalances, which is what I teach, is how to implement exercise and fasting and other tools like that appropriately for women and our hormones so we can get the results that we want, but not cause hormonal imbalances. So when I cycle in these 36-hour fasts, I do about 3 36-hour fasts per month. I feel like for me, that works really, really well. It's kind of like get more bang out of my buck, right? I'm not necessarily doing like a 17-hour fast every day or an 18-6 or something like that. I'm doing anywhere between 13 to 15 hours just overnight naturally before I start eating. But then I have 3 specific days throughout the month planned around my hormonal cycle that I do these 36-hour fasts to help burn belly fat and so many other benefits too, right? Intermittent fasting is basically like cleaning house. Your body turns inward, it does like a deep cleaning. But if you fast for at least 36 hours, your body will actually start to burn belly fat, right? So what I did this time is I decided to track everything ahead of time during the fast and then afterwards to see what are the results that I'm really getting in real time and, have hard, solid evidence. So that's what I did. So I'm using the app FitIndex. It's really easy. If you've never used it before, you can just download FitIndex on your phone. And then it tells you what scale goes with it. So then in the app, so the app is free. You certainly don't have to use that one. This is just the one that I'm using. So download the FitIndex app, and then inside the app, it will tell you the accessories that go with it, right? So like the scale that goes with it. There's a tape measure if you want to do measurements. I just initially got the scale, although the gym that I work at has the scale and the tape measure to do measurements. So I was already familiar with that. So I got a scale so I could start measuring at home. Now, what I like about this scale, which also was not expensive at all, it was about $23. It uses bioimpedance, right? So here's the thing with more old-fashioned scales that only measure overall weight. We want to know what your ratio to body fat and lean muscle mass is. We don't, because when you want to lose weight, you don't want to lose muscle, right? You want to lose fat. We always say, oh, I want to lose weight. My goal is to lose weight. But you don't really mean weight, you mean fat, right? So when we are looking at an older traditional scale that only gives us weight in pounds and doesn't give us any other metrics, it's not always accurate, right? It's not a full depiction of what's really going on inside of your body. And I see this time and time and again with clients who come in and we want to work on burning body fat and building muscle. And so they start working on building muscle and they start working on burning body fat, and their body composition starts to change, their measurements start to change, they start to feel differently and feel slimmer and tighter, but the scale might not actually change, right? It might even go up. And now if you're using a traditional scale, despite the fact that you're seeing progress and feeling better, that might cause you to feel really down on yourself, right? I mean, how many of us have been there? Like we measure ourselves and the scale went up, or the scale didn't budge yet again. And we're like, oh no, this isn't working. Completely disregarding that it is absolutely working and that we're making all those positive changes within ourselves. So the thing that I love about these newer scales and this newer technology, especially the bioimpedance, is that it will tell you what the weight of your body is in muscles, your lean body mass, and what your body fat percentage is. It also will tell you your body water. So you can get a much more accurate, now am I saying it's always 100% perfectly accurate? No, but it gives you a really good idea, right? And it gives you a much more balanced picture and approach than just an old-fashioned scale, right? Because if I measured myself on an old-fashioned scale, did a fast, came back, measured it, Yeah, I guarantee you it would go down. But people would say, oh, that's probably just water weight. That's what everyone loves to say. Oh, that's just water weight. You're just going to gain it right back. So what I wanted to do was prove that I'm actually losing body fat. And not only that, I continue to keep it off afterwards. So I have actual data. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, I absolutely recommend going over to watch this on YouTube because I'm going to show pictures on the screen. So before starting my fast, I measured. I was at 159 pounds. I was at 18.3% body fat, 56.1% body water, and 122 pounds of muscle mass. So that means of my 159 pounds, 122 pounds of that was muscle. It was lean body mass. And then 18.3, about 18% of it was body fat. So I'm at about 18% body fat before doing the 36-hour fast. Okay? Then I did the 36-hour fast, during which I also did 2 sauna sessions. So let me just add that in there. Sauna is also great for burning body fat and for detoxification, for increasing longevity, resilience, relieving stress. There's so many wonderful, awesome benefits to sauna. I always love going in the sauna when I'm fasting because I feel like it just like doubles my output, doubles my outcome, my positive benefits, right? So 1 session of 36-hour fast, which is a day and a half, during which I did 2 sauna sessions during there. Okay, then I measured afterwards. What were my measurements? 150 pounds. I went down from 159 pounds down to 150 pounds. So that's 9 pounds. I literally lost 9 pounds in a day and a half. My body fat percentage, which was at 18%, 18.3, went down to 17.2% body fat. So literally went down an entire percentage from 18 to 17% body fat. Body water went down, actually went up. So body water was 56.1% previously. After the fast, it was 56.8. So slightly up. So when people say, oh, that weight you lost, it was just water weight. No, it wasn't. And then the muscle mass was previously at 122, that went down to 117. And that does happen, right? When we fast, we do lose fat. We also lose a little bit of muscle, right? And that's why when we're done fasting, we make sure that we eat high protein and continue to eat a high protein diet. So you build that muscle back up, not the fat, right? Which is the targeted approach. So temporary change, but not really anything to worry about in terms of muscle. Then the other thing that people tend to think is, oh, well, yeah, of course you lost weight because you didn't eat for a day and a half, but I bet you gained it right back, So I measured for 2 more days after eating normally, and I tracked what I ate on those days, so I'm going to share that with you as well. And then I'll give you my progress because I did not gain it back, even after 2 days of eating completely normally. All right, so first I'll share with you what I ate when I broke my fast, right? That day. So when I was ready to break my fast, that day I had air fryer chicken wings, red lentil soup. I had 2 fillets of skirt steak with mushrooms. And then in the evening I had half of a brie, like those little round brie cheeses. I had half of that topped with pistachios and jam. And then we had a prosciutto platter that had prosciutto and salami. So I had probably about 3 slices of prosciutto and about 6 slices of salami. So when I totaled up like calories and macros and everything for that, just in case you're curious, that came out to 2,220 calories, 170 grams of protein, 142 grams of fat, and 57 grams of carbs. So pretty low carb, but high protein, high fat, which is a pretty typical diet for me. So that's good for like muscle maintenance and satiety and hormone health. So that's a pretty typical style of eating for me, right? So after eating normally for that day, then I measured again, right? So what was I the next day? So now I've done the fast. I've had a whole day where I'm eating, and now I'm measuring again. So following day measured 151 pounds. So I was 150 after the fast. The next day after eating normally for an entire day, I was only at 151 pounds. not a huge difference, right? My body fat stayed the same. So that's 17.2% body fat, exactly the same, 17.2% body fat. Body water, exactly the same, 56.8, stayed at 56.8. Muscle mass went up a tiny bit, so it went from 117.2 pounds to 117.8, right? Because I started getting some protein, did a workout, started to go up a little bit, right? Then the next day, ate completely normally for myself. So I started with a half of an avocado. I had some scrambled eggs, which was probably about like 2 to 3 eggs. I had 5 sausage links of these little Applegate pork sausages. I had half of a cheese bread. Now, this wasn't actual bread. This is like, if you guys ever seen, they're like slices of cheese that are like meant to look like bread, and you like toast them and eat them as if they were bread, but they're actually cheese. So they're really high in protein. You can get like 30 to 40 grams of protein for one of these, and you can get plain ones, or you can get garlic, quote unquote, bread, or bacon, or pizza. It's basically almost like a little pizza without the crust. It's literally just the cheese, and then it has like maybe the sauce on top. I love these because they're high protein, low carb. They're so filling. I tend to use those a lot. So I had half of one of those. Later, I had 2 chicken drumsticks with a side of root veggies. So that had some carrots, some potatoes, and sweet potatoes, just a small serving. And then I had about 1.5 cups of Icelandic yogurt. I mixed in a scoop of my grass-fed beef protein in that. And then I added about a tablespoon of Lily's chocolate chips in there. And then I had 1 orange after that. So the macros and calorie breakdown for that, very similar to my previous day. I had about 2,355 calories, 175 grams of protein, 146 grams of fat, and about 100 grams of carbs, with 20 of those being fiber. So a little higher carb day, but not significantly high, right? All right, then I measured again. So after eating all that for another day. So another day of full normal eating, right? High protein, high fat diet. So I was previously at 151 pounds. I actually went back down to 150. So where I was at the end of my fast. Flat 150 pounds. My body fat percentage went down a tiny bit. So instead of going up, it was 17.2. It went down to 17.1% body fat. My body water went up a tiny, tiny bit. So it was 56.8. It went up to 56.9. About the same. And then my muscle mass went down a tiny bit, 117.8, it went down to 117. So that's just kind of to paint the picture for you guys that these fasts really work. They really work. And I mean, yes, obviously when you fast, you're not, say you're fasting for 36 hours. Say you've worked up to that, right? Because I didn't start with 36 hours. I worked up to it. And then when I was ready, then I started doing it. Now it's easy for me because it's something I've been doing. But if you're new to fasting, obviously you're going to gently work up to this. Don't shock your body by just trying to not eat for a day and a half if you've never done fasting before. But for my people who do intermittent fasting, this is something that shows that these fasts really do actually work. And it's not just, oh, you lost water weight, because everyone always loves to say that, right? These actually work. Now, of course, once we haven't eaten for a day and a half, the key is when you start eating again, you eat normally. You don't eat a day's and a half worth of food immediately after you start eating again, right? Because that would kind of backfire. So you do have to be a little mindful. And honestly, when you're eating a high protein, high fat diet like I do, I didn't feel hungry. I felt satiated with that amount of food, like I always do. So it's just something to be mindful. If you're doing those fasts to burn belly fat and for weight loss, once you do the fast and you start eating again, just make sure that you're eating the normal amount of food for you. Or, if you're trying to be in a deficit and you want to lose weight and belly fat, what your ideal food amount would be in a day, right? If you have your calories or your macros calculated at a level that's healthy and appropriate for you, you want to make sure you're not going over that and eating like crazy, right? Because yes, then you'd start to lose some of those results. However, what this very clearly shows is if you do a 36-hour fast And then you just start eating normally again, or you eat like a healthy, like high protein, high fat diet, normal and appropriate for my size and activity level, also felt satiated, not depriving myself. I absolutely maintained those results for days later, even after drinking normal amounts of water, eating normal amounts of food, eating high fat, eating protein. I even had some carbs in there. So I think that just speaks to very, very solid evidence how this works, right? So would I have been happy looking at a normal scale, seeing it go down from 159 to 150 and then maintaining? Yes, of course I would have been. But this gives even more information, right? And also for the people who would have said, oh, but it's water weight. No, it wasn't, because we measured that, right? But I can see what happened with the body fat and how the body fat went down an entire percentage from 18 to 17 and has continued to stay down at 17%. And I'm still measuring and it's still at 17%. So this is something that if you are in a weight loss plateau, if you just feel like you have those stubborn pounds on your tummy and they're just not coming off, cycling in semi-regularly 36-hour fast can be the absolute key to burning off that stubborn belly fat. So like I said, now with clients that I'm working with one-on-one, I kind of do it tailored to their lifestyle, their goals, their hormones. But the basic rule is, obviously this isn't something you do every day all the time, especially if you're a woman. You're gonna cycle it in and cycle it out. So for someone who wants to do this, you know, maybe a little more aggressively and has worked up to feeling comfortable with a longer fast, maybe once a week, right? And then taking a week off that week prior to your period. Or, you know, even if you've already gone through menopause, taking a week off per month to support healthy progesterone production. So that's a whole nother podcast. But that is something to always keep in mind when you're a woman. You do need to cycle things out and cycle things in. We shouldn't be doing a low carb diet all month long. It works for our hormones sometimes, but not all the time. So what I mean with that basically is we have different hormones that we have to support, right? Men just have testosterone. We have testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. And estrogen and progesterone have very different needs. They have very different personalities. So like estrogen loves like keto, carnivore, low carb. She does very well on that. Progesterone does not. She actually needs carbs to come to a healthy peak, to have healthy levels of progesterone. So the way that we support that is we switch up how we eat throughout the month, right? Most of the month I'm eating low carb, keto-ish, carnivore-ish. But that week before my cycle, I'm bringing in root veggies, I'm bringing in some healthy carbs. It doesn't need to be a lot, but they need to be present and on the plate so that I don't cause hormonal imbalances. This is why styles of eating like intermittent fasting or diets like keto or carnivore, while they work, and they often work really well in men, in women, when we use them long term, sometimes they can cause hormonal imbalances. But they won't if we cycle them in and out appropriately. So that's a huge part of what I do. So if you need more help with that, definitely let me know. I love helping and teaching women that. I also have some free resources on that, which I will link below if you need help figuring out the different phases where you can eat lower carb and thrive on it, and then the phases where you need a little higher carb. And this is for women who haven't gone through menopause or can follow the same cycle. You still have the same hormones that still have the same cyclical needs. So that's how using this as a tool appropriately for women can absolutely help you lose weight, lose body fat, keep it off, and also balance your hormones at the same time. And tell me like what diet actually does that, right? Most diets, especially harsh diets, will actually cause hormonal imbalances. So weight and fat loss will happen, but at the expense of hormones, at the expense of, you know, maybe your hair starts falling out, right? I've heard that from a lot of women, or they start to plateau because it no longer works, right? So this is doing it smarter. That's why I always say a female-focused approach, working smarter, not harder, because we are cycling things in appropriately to use these tools, get the most juice out of them, and then cycling out when we need to do other things to support our hormones. Anyway, all that to say, 36-hour fasts are a wonderful tool, and this just absolutely proves how effective they are and how easy it is to make those results last. So I just really wanted to share that with you guys. I just think it's really helpful, you know, and I'll admit it, I'm not really a type A person. I don't tend to track things like very obsessively. I know some people are really into tracking, that's fine. It kind of depends on your personality, right? Some people are really into tracking, they like to structure an organization, and other people are a little more intuitive, a little more go with the flow, which tends to be me a little bit more. But what I will say is it can be helpful to track for at least a short amount of time or around an event like this, so you can get solid evidence and you can really see what's happening in my body. What happened with my body water? What happened with my overall weight? What happened with my body fat percentage? What happened with my muscle mass percentage, right? And that's where the more data points you have, the more accurate of a depiction you're going to get, and you're going to understand, okay, this causes this type of result in my body, right? And that's really valuable information. So again, this was the FitIndex, and I used their app and the FitIndex scale, and that's how I was able to track that during my 36-hour fast. So I hope that this was helpful and illuminating. I think it always means more, like rather than me just saying, oh, the benefits of a 36-hour fast, I think it's always means more when I can say, well, this is personally what happened with me, right? I lost 9 pounds doing this fast. My body fat percentage went down an entire percentage from 18 to 17%. Yet my body water stayed pretty much the same, telling me I lost body fat, not just water, right? So really helpful tool. So something to definitely consider, getting one of those bioimpedance scales. And if you are tracking, I highly recommend doing that and giving that a try. And so you can measure it and just see all your lovely progress. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and share if this is something that has been helpful to you. And until next time.